Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Welcome to ShuraTV, to the Prison Outreach Program. And I'm so delighted today to have with us Imam Hateem Shareef from Masjid Ibn Rabah in Los Angeles, for him to be able to share with us and to introduce to some of the community that may not know him, and for those who do, to get a chance to hear his expansive work that he's doing with the men and women who come out of the prisons and the jails. Imam Hateem, would you kind of just share a little bit about yourself?
Yes, sir. Well, I'm actually a second generation Muslim. My parents were Muslims, so I grew up in an Islamic household. In the event of my teenagehood, after graduating from school, as fate, we'd say Allah's will had it, my parents separated. And at that, I look back and see that was the time that discipline left the home, in the sense of my father. We stayed connected, my parents stayed connected, but that opened the door for me to venture out more into society and society's influences, which led me eventually to incarceration. The beautiful thing and the grace and mercy of Allah was that I had that Islamic foundation in me. So when I began to progress what I consider in the journey of incarceration, like it's symbolic to the journey of life wherever it takes you, I had that foundation, that moral foundation in me. And so when I made the decision that this was not the lifestyle that I wanted to live, if Allah blessed me to be freed from that environment, that I would never forsaken the path of Allah again. And so that was for me. And I began to repair myself in the sense of reestablishing my Islamic covenant with Allah, my studies, my interaction with the wonderful chaplains and imams like yourself that spent time and effort sacrificing to volunteer in the prison system. And before I knew it, it became very natural and comfortable for me. So as Allah willed, once I was granted freedom, I made dua to Allah that if I was to be granted freedom with my memory and my health, that I would never forsaken the path again. And the wonderful thing for me is that, again, brothers and sisters that were in the community, like yourself, that have committed their lives to Islam, the masjids with many of those pioneers that were there when I was young, they were still there, and they opened their arms to me. And so as time passed, I just saw that the work and the effort was needed to help, and it became natural. So about 3 to 5 years passed, and one of the imams, who was a prison chaplain, asked me would I consider coming back volunteering. Remember, I didn't consider that while I was inside. My concentration was just on redeveloping myself Islamically and in the best human way I can. So eventually they kept appealing to me, and one day I accepted the invitation. And I was kind of skeptical because I didn't believe that I could get cleared based upon my the track record that I had established. But again, Allah shows, we say that man plans and women plan and Allah plans, and Allah is the best of planners. And unbeknownst to me, I was cleared. I was actually coming back in town with my wife on a plane, and got a call from Imam Safir, who at the time was the resident chaplain imam at CRC, California Rehabilitation Center. And he said, alhamdulillah, he said, did you get the news? And I said, what news? He said, you're cleared. And I said, alhamdulillah. It was a undeniable, undescribable feeling. And so from that point, I just started going into the institution. He had a leadership class going, so I started, designing some principles that I know that had helped me, and I shared those with the brothers and men that were inside, both Muslim and non-Muslim, because as we know, leadership is something that all men and women from any walk of life can attach themselves to once they make the decision. We know that our faith and in the covenant of Islam says that our prophet Muhammad, may Allah be pleased with him and grant him the best station, we know that his example is the example for all mankind. And I said to myself, if his example is, and we're actually following this life, then it could be helpful to anyone. So as of now, I have been volunteering since 2018. Yes, about 2018. And doing the work inside has really presented a perspective for me to those incarcerated in a way that is really associated with the work that is done in society, at massages and communities. And so I began to see the connection between the efforts inside of the prison system and the efforts that are made out here in society. So that's pretty much, that was my beginning,
Okay.
back into the community.
If I was to ask you, how have you seen the way Islam is understood by the men inside over the years? Have you seen, especially, from 2001 till 2000 to now, have you seen, men still as receptive, continually, or have you seen a drop off in men's, openness, to hear about Islam, or the men who have embraced Islam, their, study habits like in the old days?
Actually, it's a continuum, in my opinion. I went into the system in the 90s, mid-90s. And, at that time I was able to observe from the inside out how beneficial Islam was as far as lifting men and people's dignity in an environment where there are few, and often cases, no sources to sustain your human dignity and wellness. So Islam at that time was looked at it as a source, and it was also looked at as, for staff and other people, something that was very respected. I don't really see too much of a difference now in that. So I do see a sustainability in that regard, because here we are, almost 30 years later. So I haven't really seen a change in that regard, and that's just a reminder for us all how literally Islam is a way of life.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. As you now, go in and work with the men, your past experience, has that given you, you think, an additional asset in connecting? That they see that you're there, for them. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
With no agenda.
Right. It does. Two things that I reference is that, and this is for parents and people in the community in general, is that if you have, going back to my point, when I was raised, I had a moral foundation, and then, alhamdulillah, it was Islam. It's much easier when you decide to change your life. You have something internally to draw from. Many those who don't have that moral foundation, whether it's from a Christian perspective, a Jewish perspective, or whatever perspective, if you don't have that moral foundation, then it's much more difficult to draft and extract from the outside once you make that decision. So I see that as a somewhat of a dilemma. I do believe that my experience in that, because I had that foundation, helped me. So I share that. I do find that one of the things I share with a lot of brothers who I'm in contact with now that haven't went back in, and they say, well, what would I talk about? And I say, just talk about your story. Just talk about your path. And because that connection with those that are inside is what creates that awareness, right? That you are able to filter what I say. I say that not that, not only can you extract and lift yourself out of that environment and to society and become a citizen. It's not that it can be done. It is. I'm an example that it is being done, and there are many more like myself.
Alhamdulillah. Now, I know that as Imam at the Masjid in the inner city, you receive men and women from different places. What have you done, or what is the community doing to try to create, a welcoming, facility for brothers and sisters to come home to, to receive their spiritual, feeding, now that they are out?
Yes, sir.
And I know that's one of the issues that we trying to address with this program, is sensitizing our community, because often I hear when men and women come home and they go to some of the different facilities, or the masjids or Islamic centers, they don't feel welcomed.
Right.
They don't feel, that it was warm or it was, receptive. So have you all done anything in particular? Are you trying to do any kind of program specifically for the men and women coming home?
Actually, so in effect, inherited the position of Imam. I was assistant to Imam Majid, may Allah forgive him for his sins. Grant in paradise. He was as you know, was a very long-standing pioneer from the 70s. And, me and him would sit and talk, because I had knew him since I was 12, 13 years old. So he knew my journey, my plight. And he was opening, he's opened his arms and the masjid, in a sense, to me. So what we did as time passed, we talked about establishing, in effect, welcoming committees, classes, just a place where Muslim men and women could feel more than anything comfortable and not stigmatized by their past. So we talked about how to establish that, and mashallah, we're continuing that. Continuing that legacy now, where we do outreach, we do intervention, we allow and we encourage brothers who have, and sisters who have been incarcerated to know that at Masjid Bilal and Rabah we are at a masjid that is definitely not only open to those who have been incarcerated, but we have a understanding about the path that they were on. We're working to really establish that as a place where, when they feel maybe ostracized, or they feel that they don't have too many places to depend on, to go to share the difficulties that are inevitable when you come from incarceration. I want to note that one of the things, and you note as well, that when you're in an environment, when you're incarcerated, I like to use the term, you live like on the same block with other Muslims, in the same close environment. And so what that does is establishes a consistency of where you're seeing each other, you're around each other, oftentimes more than you may want to be, but that's the environment.
Right.
That encourages a brotherhood, a sisterhood. And what happens is, when you transfer and you parole and come from incarceration to society, life takes its form. Your family, your responsibilities, and then that specific enclosure is no longer there. So what I've learned is that in most cases, that in most families, we know more non-Muslims than you know Muslims. So if you're in an environment in society, then you're surrounded by, or you're not surrounded by that Islamic stronghold, that comfort. So it is very common that we have too much open space. So one of the things with that awareness is that we try to provide a plate as a source for those who, when they're dealing with or feeling that they need someone to talk to, that they need more than just Jummah, more than just on the Friday. As you know, we just left the Eids. That's 2 times a year. We have Jummah on once a week. But when those that come from incarceration, they may, and you literally normally do need to be around that moral fiber and rubbing off with other brothers and sisters who are on that same page and that same mindset more than just once a month, once a week. So alhamdulillah, we are just, we just striving to just spread that word and do what we can to be a solid place for that.
Alhamdulillah. If you could, ask the community in ways in which they could, support and help what's going on at Masjid ibn Rabah, what would, how would you like to see the community, either come visit, that exactly the location, or other ways in which they can support what you're doing?
Right. Alhamdulillah. So we're located in Los Angeles at 5450 Crenshaw. We're in the Crenshaw area, which is not far from, many are familiar with Leimert Park, which is on the west side of Los Angeles. It's very, like you shared earlier, it's a very common street, Crenshaw, one of the longest streets in Los Angeles. It is a masjid, has been there since the 80s. Imam Khalilullah, may Allah forgive him for his sins, granted great as he opened the masjid. Our plans, we have some very solid plans in regards to classes, getting back to the classes that were established before the pandemic. So right now we are, you can contact us to give any kind of support that we can, that we're in need of support. As naturally, we're not a big masjid in numbers, but the way I look at it, we're big in spirit. So alhamdulillah, we could use the support in that regard. I was just listening on the news today where they talked about at the end of the week, if not the month, they're going to consider putting the mask mandates back on for the COVID. So I'm mentioning that because prior to the pandemic, we had classes through the week. So we anticipate going back to those classes, and one of the specific classes we're going to start is an orientation class for those who are coming from incarceration, and stem from that orientation in Islam, and also invite those who are willing to share their experiences in society. I believe wholeheartedly. As a matter of fact, I'm definitely a shaheed, a witness that there's a common connection between dawah in society and dawah in the prison. The unfortunate thing is that for various reasons, times and efforts and energies and resources, there's not enough support on the inside in regards to helping people reform their lives Islamically and then connect them to sources on the outside. So alhamdulillah, we welcome any efforts, resources, and assistance in this effort that we can get.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you for watching us on ShuraTV, the Prison Outreach Program series. Continue to support the Shura Council, support ShuraTV, and definitely support Prison Outreach Program so we can continue to send Qur'ans and kufis and hijabs and other materials and support those in ways in which we can when they do come home to get established in the community. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.